Hey there crew, it's Mark from Mark Your Pages, and I'm so excited that so many people were like, Mark, can you tell me how to use that special item from the Archer and Olive subscription box? If you're keeping yourself unspoiled until you get the box yourself, I'm gonna ask you to come back to this video afterwards, but for everyone else that is interested in that special item and how to use that very special item, let's go ahead and talk about it right now. So the fountain pen in the Archer and Olive subscription box is an incredibly exciting moment for Archer and Olive. I've been predicting that we were going to see a fountain pen for some time now, and it is here. Now, I don't physically have the pen in my hands just yet. My box is on its way, but I did want to get this out early in case you're getting your box and you want to jump right into using the pen, but you're not quite sure how. Here are the things we do know about this fountain pen that make it special. There are a few things that we know about this pen. First of all, loving the color of this one. I'm very excited to have it in my collection. The other is that it's going to be a medium-sized nib, so that's going to be kind of like your 0.7, not quite a 1mm bold if you're thinking about pens, but it's a really nice, just kind of good medium piece. It's not super thin, extra fine, but not overly bold, which I think is going to be good for Archer and Olive because I've done some tests inside of my notebook with fountain pens and inks, and when you start to go into like that broad or like really stub nib, which are much bigger and bolder, you have some issues with the paper. So I think this is going to be a really great kind of medium space. Enough about that. The most important part is the converter. So the converter I thought was going to be like a standard converter with a twist top, like I'm showing you right here. You screw the top to move the piston down, you screw it the other way to suck the ink up inside your converter. Now inside of the unboxing video, we saw that it's a little bit different. So it's actually more of like a manual piston that we're seeing here. Now, I don't have a converter like the one we saw in that video, but I have one kind of close. It's a manual piston converter for my Quaco pen. It's much smaller, but it's going to do the same thing. So we're gonna use that pen today to demo how to fill up your fountain pen with ink once you get it inside of your subscription box. Now, the other thing I'm gonna be testing out when I do get that pen is, can I use a standard converter with a twist top that makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more controlled than that? And the other thing will be to see if we could potentially use ink cartridges instead of converters. What's great about a cartridge is you can buy them in many different colors, just pop it into the top of your pen, you start writing with it. When the ink is gone, you throw away your cartridge, you get a new one and pop it back in. So you're not dealing with inks and filling and refilling, anything like that. But I love filling inks. I have a huge collection because it's so fun. So let's go ahead and talk about how you will fill your pen when you first get it inside of the subscription box. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Quaco as my example. Again, this has the closest thing to the converter that I have in my collection, which is a manual piston. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to take the cap off of our pen, and then we're going to unscrew the barrel from the back. Just in case your converter is not connected to the top of your pen when you get it, you're just gonna wanna push that in there and give it a little extra pressure to make sure that it's connected there, and then we're good to go. Inside of the Archer and Olive kit, you do get 3 different color inks, which are very exciting. So in this case, you're going to pick your favorite color. You can start with any of the ones that you want. I don't have them yet, like I mentioned, so I'm just gonna use this ink here. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that our piston is pressed all the way down before we put the tip of our pen into our ink. The reason we're doing that is that if you have your pen tip inside of your ink and then you press down on that converter, all that air is gonna push out of your pen and potentially splash back at you or get ink all over your space. So before we do anything, make sure your converter is pressed all the way into your pen. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually take the tip of our pen and we're going to insert that into our ink bottle that we have here. You wanna make sure that it's covered up to right above where your feet is. This is where all the ink is gonna come out of as you're writing with it. So we wanna make sure that it's filled all the way up. Don't worry about having any excess ink on your pen tip. We're gonna wipe that off once we're done filling it up. So you just wanna make sure that it's just a little bit submerged past that tip. Now what we're going to do is we're gonna carefully and slowly pull up on the piston. We take our time here because what it's going to do is really kind of use this like a straw, and we're going to kind of suck that ink up. It's going to have to go through the feed and the pen and then into your converter. And you should start to see a little bit of ink coming into that converter as you're slowly pulling up on it. If you don't see any ink coming into your converter, then what you're gonna do is we're gonna lightly lift out the pen just so it's a little bit above the ink, and we're going to slowly press down on that converter. It may take 2 times for you to pull up on this to get any ink in. It happens all the time, nothing's wrong with your pen. So with the tip of our pen into the ink, we're again going to pull up slowly with our converter, and now you should start to see some ink inside of there. Don't worry about getting your ink converter filled all the way up to the tippy top when you do this. It's really, really hard to do that with a lot of different pens, regardless of the type of converter. And honestly, what you have inside of your pen tip now should last you a good amount of time. And what's cool is if you run out of ink, you just refill it. Super easy to do. Once you have your ink converter filled, you're gonna go ahead and slowly put that back into the barrel, and we're gonna go ahead and secure and screw that so it's nice and shut. Now what you wanna do is grab a scrap piece of paper, and you're just gonna go ahead and write on it. You're just gonna draw some lines. You can write your name if you want to. The thing to remember about a fountain pen is it's not like a calligraphy nib. It's not necessarily going to be super flexible or give you those thicks and thins. Again, I'll be able to look at it much better when I have the pen myself. You don't wanna press too hard. Treat it like you would with any regular type of pen. That's exactly how you want to use this fountain pen. Now that we've filled up our pen, let's talk about refilling and cleaning it real quick. So, after time, your ink is going to run out of this pen because you've used it all, which is amazing, such a good feeling. You'll notice when you need to refill, when you try to write with the pen and it starts skipping a lot or no ink comes out at all. So what we're going to do is we're gonna go ahead and we're going to unscrew the back of our pen now. And I like to go ahead and point the tip of the pen facing up and kind of tap on the converter a little bit. And if you don't see any ink coming down through there, that means it's time for a refill. So what I'll have you do right now is just for safety reasons, we're gonna grab ourselves a container and we're just gonna hold the tip of the pen over and then we're gonna press on that piston. What that's going to do is just push any of that extra air out and also kind of protect our space that we're working with. Again, you always want to refill your pen with that piston down first, so that way when you pull it up, you don't have to worry about anything coming out of the end. You're just doing it one way. That's the way you want to do it. If you want to go ahead and change the color of your ink, considering we have 3 to choose from, let me show you real quick how to do a really quick flush on your pen, and then we'll be all set up to load it with a new color. For this section, what you're going to need are going to be 2 containers. I have these little glass ones that I use for all of my ink refills. You could use any type of container, a Dixie cup if you wanted to, or even yogurt containers. I always keep 2 of those around just in case. We're going to fill one of them up with lukewarm water. It doesn't have to be super hot, and the other we're going to leave empty. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew the pen from the barrel, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna dip the pen into the water. You should see some of that ink start to come out. I love this part so much, it looks so neat. What we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and push that piston down slowly, and then we're gonna go ahead and suck up the water into our pen. Now go ahead and put that pen over top of the empty container and slowly press down on the piston. At first, your water is gonna come out the same exact color as your ink. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue this process for a few times to get and flush out any of that extra color from our pen. Depending on how much ink is inside of your water container here, sometimes I'll actually pour that out and refresh that glass as a final last flush for this pen. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Something I like to say is that when your pen is running clear, then you're in the clear. That means you've gotten as much of that ink out as you can, and now we're ready to go ahead and store this pen or fill it up with a new different color. Something that I like to do in between uses of a pen, and sometimes in between flushing things out too, is I like to put a paper towel in the bottom of a container, and then tip side down is just put my pen inside of that glass. And what that's gonna do is that paper towel is just gonna soak up any extra water that might be inside of your pen tip. If you want, as long as most of the water is out, you're going to be in the clear. Then what we can do is just push our piston down, have our new ink color, and then refill it the same way that we did in the beginning of this video. Hopefully I've given you everything that you need to get started with your pen inside of this Archer and Olive subscription box. I am so incredibly excited for the future of this. I know that we got this for a subscription box, but Archer and Olive is known to bring those things back out to the public. So I personally am hoping we see other designs in the future, just another thing for us stationery lovers to collect from them. Once I have my box and once I have my pen, I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive, a bit of a review, see exactly how the pen and the ink work and how they work inside of the Archer and Olive notebooks. I'm very curious on that, but I'm gonna trust that team and say that they tested it ahead of time. So I can't wait to get a little bit more hands on that when we get that. I'm curious to hear from you. How excited are you for this fountain pen inside of this subscription box? Let me know. If you have any questions as well, all down in the comments, drop them there and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much, friends, and can't wait to see what you think about the rest of the box. It's pretty exciting. See ya.